Today I want to show you two different ways I add detail lines to a laser design in Illustrator, specifically how I separate strokes so that I can assign them as either score lines or cut lines. I'm using a simple bow design as an example. It's a single line bow, but it has extra details that make it feel more dimensional. On the laser, I want the bow shape itself to cut, and then those details inside, I want those to score. So that means that I need to separate those strokes and give them different colors in Illustrator. I had someone ask in one of my courses if there were other ways to do this because they felt stuck using the method that I teach in my courses. So I want to show the method that I teach, and then I'll show you a second option. Depending on the artwork that you're using, you might find that the second option is easier. You might also find it to be a little more difficult. And that's why I'm going to show you both methods so that you know your options and you can choose which one works best for you. This is one of my favorite ways to make simple designs feel more interesting on the laser without adding extra layers or complexity. So let's go ahead and jump in. So like I mentioned, this first method is what I teach in my courses. I tend to think that this first method is a little more beginner friendly because basically all we're doing is using the scissors tool in Illustrator to make cuts on our strokes, to basically break them up where we need them broken up. So first thing we want to do is just take a second to look at our bow and determine what portions we want cut and what portions we want to score. So the outline of the bow we want to cut because that is the shape that's going to cut out of our material. And then everything inside of that outline we'll want to score so that in the end we have a bow that doesn't look flat, it looks dimensional. Now, I personally find that it's easier to use both methods in outline mode. So to get there, you can go to View, Outline, and now you'll see the thinnest version of your stroke lines. So looking at our bow, we know we want to keep all of these outline strokes as our cut color. In my case, I use red to cut. And then all of these details inside, all of these right here, and then over here, these we're going to want to change to our score color. In my case, I use blue. So right now I have all of my stroke lines grouped together. I'm going to just ungroup these real quick. So these stroke lines right here are already separated. We don't need to cut those. So take a second to click on the lines that you know you want to be scored and just see where they're connected. So I want this top portion to be scored, but I don't want this portion to be scored because this is the outline of our bow. We want this to cut. So I know that I need to make a cut right here in this corner to separate this top stroke from the bottom stroke. I also know that this tiny portion of this bottom stroke needs to be scored. I don't want the laser to cut into that. Same thing over here. So I'm going to place my cut in 3 spots to get started, and then we'll come back and look and see if there's anywhere else that we need to make cuts. So I'm going to pull out my scissors tool, which is C on the keyboard. You can also find it over here. It just looks like scissors. And you'll have this little crosshair cursor, and you'll just place your cuts. It doesn't need to be perfect because when this is on the laser, you're not even going to see if it's right up to the edge or not. It does not need to be perfect. I'll show you how we can clean this up in the end. Now, if you click and nothing's happening, you either need to zoom in or you need to get a little bit further away from a corner, and then it will cut. And this one, I'm just going to cut right on this anchor point in the corner, and it should separate it. Perfect. Okay, so now I have this one separated. I have this one, and I have this one. And the last portion of the bow that I will want to cut to make a score line is going to be the left and right side of this inner portion of the bow. So I'm going to pull out my scissors tool and I'm going to put a cut right here at the top. Again, you might just have to click around or you can zoom in a little bit if you want. We'll zoom in on this one because it's not quite getting it. Okay, so now I'll zoom back out. And I'm going to actually leave outline mode so that I can see our colors and we can make sure everything is correctly assigned. So now I'm just going to click through and grab all of my detail. and make sure I have everything. I'm going to assign my stroke to blue. And so far that looks correct to me. I'm actually going to group it all together. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to delete it. Now you can see the shape of our bow has all these different breaks and nothing is attached. So it looks like we have a bow shape, but we actually just have a bunch of broken lines. So what we're going to do is select everything. We're going to pull out our shape builder tool, which is Shift M, and we're just going to click inside this gray spot. And now it creates a shape. But as you can see, we have all these stray cuts now from when we were making the cuts earlier. So let's undo that. Let's come over here to our layers panel and let's find this layer. Mine's at the very bottom, and I know that it's this layer because it has this blue square. That means this is the artwork that is currently selected. So I'm just going to come over here to the eyeball and hide it. I'm going to select all of those and delete it. So now it's clean. Now we have our shape. I'm going to make it visible again. I'm going to go back into outline mode. And now I'm going to paste in place our detail lines that we copied and deleted just a few seconds ago. And the shortcut to paste in place is Shift Control B, or you can go to Edit, Paste in Place. Now looking at this, you see that there's some little gaps right here, and that's totally fine. You are not going to be able to tell on the laser. Now this one might be a little too big. I probably should have zoomed in to make that cut, but it's not a problem. If you run into this issue, just grab your direct selection tool, which is A on the keyboard. It's also over here. It's the white arrow. And you can grab this anchor point and just bring it up to this corner. And when you zoom out, it'll look like it blends right in. So now leaving outline mode, we can see our red cut is the outline bow shape, and then our blue is the detail that will be scored on our laser. So this is all good to go. This one does require just a little bit of cleanup because you're making a bunch of cuts. So you're going to have some of those stray strokes and anchor points hidden behind your shapes. So just make sure to clean it up. But other than that, this is a great method because you're just making cuts with the scissor tool. Now for the second method, we will be using the shape builder tool to separate our detail line strokes from the outline of our bow shape. This method is very precise. Our stroke lines will not be left with any gaps like in the first method. So overall, this is a cleaner way to separate our lines. You typically aren't left with any stray anchor points or stray pieces behind your designs that you'll need to clean up. It's always a good idea to get in the habit of just double checking that you don't have any stray anchor points anywhere in your designs, because that's just going to give you a much better, cleaner experience on your laser. But because of how accurate and precise using the shape builder tool is, you typically don't have to worry about stray pieces like that ending up in your design. So first thing we'll want to do is select our bow and then come over here to your layers panel, and we're just going to drop this down and we're going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to click this and drag it down to the plus sign. And now we have two. I'm going to toggle one off. So this one is sitting behind this, but it's currently hidden. And we're just going to work with this one first. So just like we did in the first technique, just take a second to look at your bow and determine what lines you want scored and which ones you want cut. What we're going to do is we're going to select our bow. We're going to pull out the shape builder tool, and we're basically just going to minus all of the stroke lines that we want cut. That way, all that's left in the end are the detail stroke lines. So select your bow, pull out the shape builder tool, which is Shift M, and then holding down Alt on your computer, it might be Option if you're on Mac, you want this little minus sign to show underneath your cursor. And that means that you're using the shape builder tool to minus your strokes. Now, the way that the shape builder tool works is it determines where your strokes start and end. So if I want to leave this stroke line right here as a score line, I know I want to minus this portion, and I'll want to minus this portion first before minusing this portion first, because I'll show you what happens if I minus this portion of the bow first. Now it thinks this is all one stroke. I don't have any way of telling Illustrator that I want this portion to stay because the stroke that ended right here that I just got rid of is no longer there to tell Illustrator that this portion and this portion at the top of the bow are two separate strokes. I hope that makes sense. So with this method, you'll want to be really intentional about which strokes you delete first, which can get really complex if you have artwork that has a ton of detail to it, which is why sometimes using the previous method with the scissors can be a little bit easier because you're just cutting away at strokes. You're not trying to puzzle it in your mind, which ones you need to do first. But rest assured, you can always undo, so it's not the end of the world, and it does take some practice. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and be really intentional about what lines I get rid of first. So let's start with this top one, and I'll do this bottom one. So now I'm left with these, which is good. Now I want this line right here to be left as a stroke line. So I'm going to delete this portion first, because if I were to delete this bottom line first, it's going to think this whole thing right here is one line. So let's get rid of this one first. And now I can get rid of this portion. And now I can come up here and get rid of this one as well. Okay, so now we have all of the detail lines that we want to score. So let's group everything together, Control G. And then I'm going to come over here to our layers panel and we'll hide these strokes and we'll make this one visible. Now I'm going to pull out my selection tool, which is B on the keyboard. It's also your black arrow over here. We'll select this and we'll pull out the shape builder tool, which is again Shift M. And now we have a plus sign underneath the cursor. I want to make this all one shape, so I'm just going to click and drag and basically make everything gray. And then I'm going to pull out the direct selection tool, which is A on the keyboard. And I'm just going to delete all of these straight pieces. Now we have our outline shape. I'm going to come back over here to our layers panel and we'll toggle this layer back on. Here's all the detail pieces. We just need to change this to our score color. So I'm going to select the detail, come over here and change our color to blue. And there we go. This one's way more precise. If we go into outline mode, you can see that there's no gaps. All the lines are perfectly lined up with each other. It's great for just really clean designing, but again, you just have to be really intentional about what lines you get rid of. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to decide what method to use. And honestly, I bounce back and forth between both methods. There's no right or wrong method to use. It just really depends what it is you're trying to do and how quickly are you trying to do it. Now I just want to double check really quick that there aren't any stray pieces. So I'm just going to come over to the layers panel and we'll hide both of them. And I'm just going to marquee select, make sure there's no hidden pieces I can't see. And it looks like everything is clean. So I'll make these visible again. We'll leave outline mode. And this is good to go. All right, those are two different ways that I separate stroke details so that I can control what cuts and what scores on my laser. The bow that I used in this example, along with a bunch of other design elements and patterns, they all come from my 3-day collection builder workshop. It's meant to help you dip your toes into designing without the need to start from scratch. So I give you the design assets and then I walk you through the basics of Illustrator so that you can focus on learning the process and understanding how to create laser-ready files. If you want a really easy, fun, low-pressure way to get comfortable designing in Illustrator before going all in, you can check out my 3-day workshop. I have the link in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.